Welcome to the deep dive. So what we do here is take sources you're curious about, and we really dig in to pull out the key stuff quickly and, in a way that actually sticks.
Exactly.
Today we've got this YouTube video. It features Naval Ravikant talking about his 44 harsh truths about human nature. And the listener who sent it in, they wanted those aha moments, but without, getting totally swamped. So that's our plan.
Yeah, and it's pretty dense material. I mean, it goes everywhere, right? Happiness, success, but also self-esteem, status games, why focus is just so critical now.
Absolutely. We found some really surprising angles, perspective that honestly made us stop and think quite a bit.
Sure.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Big topic first, happiness versus success. The video sort of kicks off asking, hey, is this success we're all chasing actually worth the dissatisfaction it often comes with?
Yeah, and what grabs you right away is that contrast he draws. Socrates and Diogenes. Two totally different paths to happiness, One guy's acquiring stuff, achieving things. The other's just renouncing it all. Simplicity.
It really pushes back on that common idea, doesn't it? That you kind of have to be a bit unhappy, a bit dissatisfied to be really driven and successful.
Totally. That old thinking that being content just kills your ambition.
Yeah. But Naval's view, it seems like it's shifted a bit. He's suggesting that maybe being more peaceful inside, that can actually lead you to bigger goals, more authentic ones anyway, goals that really fit you.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Have you ever felt that tension yourself? That pull between wanting to achieve more and, I don't know, just wanting some peace?
Oh, absolutely. It's a constant balancing act for a lot of us, I think.
And it brings up that whole drive for material success. Is it almost like a phase you have to go through? A quicker way, maybe, like Naval suggests, to see its limits?
He brings up Buddha, right. Started with everything, then went searching.
Exactly. And here's a key bit, I thought. It's far easier to achieve our material desires than it is to renounce them.
Wow. Say that again.
It's far easier to achieve our material desires than it is to renounce them. Think about it. We're kind of built to want things, to get things. It's often only after we get them that we might go, was that it? So maybe the takeaway is just being aware of that potential desire trap, even while you're going after stuff.
He also talks about winning the game to be free of it. Like maybe you engage in those status things, you get a certain amount of comfort, almost as a strategy to eventually step back, to not need to keep chasing. It sounds more conscious, less compulsive.
Yeah, playing the game to transcend the game, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you think about a whole lifespan, I mean, your definition of success, it's almost guaranteed to change, isn't it?
Definitely. What you wanted at 20 is probably not what you want at 40 or 60.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit, maybe into something a little less comfortable. Suffering. And the journey. One of those harsh truths is that, well, most real gains involve some short-term pain for a long-term payoff.
It's that classic delayed gratification idea, right? The marshmallow test, but for grown-ups.
Pretty much. But he throws in a really important warning. Don't become a suffering addict.
Right, where you start thinking the pain is the progress. Like if it doesn't hurt, it's not working.
Exactly. That's a trap. And he makes this great distinction between, actual physical pain and then that mental suffering we create, that resistance, that, I don't want to do this feeling.
Yeah, that internal battle, a lot of that is self-inflicted, isn't it?
Totally.
And what's really striking is hearing that even very successful people often look back and wish they'd actually enjoyed the process more.
Right. All that focus on the destination, you miss the scenery.
You got it. The day-to-day grind gets overshadowed.
Which leads to this really powerful thought exercise he suggests. Imagine talking to yourself from 5, 10, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay.
Knowing what you know now, what would you tell that younger you? My bet is it involves something like, do it, but with less anger, less stress, less internal drama.
Yeah, probably. Less angst. Because so much of that is just unnecessary noise.
Exactly. Because, as the video says, the journey. That's really the only thing there is. You hit a goal, fine, you bank it. But then the desire cycle just starts up again pretty quickly.
The striving, the process, that's the constant part of life.
Which flows nicely into the next bit. Desire and focus. Okay, so money solves money problems. We get that.
Sure, obvious enough.
But it's not some magic key to lasting happiness. We've all heard those stories, maybe seen the studies. Lottery winners, people recovering from awful accidents. They often just drift back to their old happiness baseline, right?
Yeah, the hedonic treadmill idea. Though the video does make a pretty good point that maybe money you earn feels different.
How so?
Well, the satisfaction might last longer because it comes with pride, confidence, a feeling of accomplishment. It wasn't just luck. You did that.
That makes sense. But still, the main theme keeps coming back. Enjoy the process, because that's like 99% of your time.
So the question becomes, how do you make that journey better?
Right.
And one idea is to shortcut the desire contract. Basically, be way more picky about what you even want in the first place.
Okay, how does that work?
By recognizing the desires that aren't really yours. The stuff you just absorbed from parents, friends, society. Letting go of those can seriously cut down on unhappiness.
And that links straight back to focus, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you want to achieve something big, you have to be selective about your desires. You just can't chase everything.
No way. Your energy gets spread too thin. It's like trying to boil the ocean.
Okay, next up. Fame and authenticity. This is a tricky one. The video makes a distinction between hollow fame just being known.
Yeah, famous for being famous.
Versus fame that you earn by actually doing something useful, making a contribution.
That shallow fame seems like it would be terrifying. Always worried the spotlight will move.
Totally. But even earned fame, the kind that comes from doing good work, it has its own issues, especially if you put your ideas out there publicly.
Yeah. The whole thing about changing your mind.
Exactly. The internet sees you change your view and immediately yells, hypocrite.
Right. When really learning is error correction. If you're growing, you're going to update your beliefs.
Yeah.
You should be able to do that without getting attacked constantly.
He quotes Emerson, right? A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds.
Yeah, exactly. The real issue isn't being wrong sometimes. It's being disingenuous. Saying stuff just to look good, to climb the ladder, to fit in.
And people can sniff that out pretty quickly these days.
Oh, yeah. Those bullshit radars, as he calls them, they're highly tuned.
And the danger for the person doing it.
Yeah.
If you're pretending all the time for others, eventually you start lying to yourself. You become this puppet.
Puppeted by a person that you are not. That's a chilling phrase.
It really is. So the advice essentially is focus on earning the respect of the people you actually respect. Forget trying to please the whole world.
Good filter. Much healthier.
This leads us nicely into status games versus wealth creation. This was a really interesting distinction for me.
Me too. The idea is that status games were maybe more critical way back hunter-gatherer times,
right.
Limited resources.
Right, zero sum. If I get more status, you might feel like you have less.
Exactly. But wealth creation, in theory, allows for positive sum outcomes. We can all potentially get wealthier.
It's not a fixed pie. Wealth creation is about building things, offering value. You don't necessarily have to take from someone else to succeed.
Whereas status is often inherently about comparison, hierarchy, who's above who.
Yeah. And those status games can be addictive, right? Likes, followers, rankings.
Totally. He points out they tap into loss aversion.
Yeah.
We get obsessed with our trajectory compared to others, not just our own progress. It's nuts.
Okay, next, harsh truth. This one's about self-esteem. And the point made is that the worst thing isn't really failing.
Right.
It's lacking self-esteem in the first place, because then just trying anything feels impossible.
Yeah, it makes the world seem like this insurmountable challenge.
Yeah.
And the roots can be deep, lack of unconditional love growing up, maybe genetics, circumstances.
Right.
It's complex.
But the way he frames it is powerful. Self-esteem is basically the reputation you have with yourself.
I like that.
Do your actions line up with your own internal code? If you keep breaking your own rules, that reputation tanks.
So building it back up means what? Consciously acting according to your own values.
Exactly. And another way is through genuine sacrifice, not just giving up something small for something bigger you wanted anyway.
Right, like a real cost.
Yeah, incurring a real cost for someone else or for a principle you hold dear.
And while being ethical, having integrity might not always be the fastest route to, say, money. It's framed as this long-term investment in trust. Trust with yourself, trust with others. It connects to that stag hunt idea from game theory. High trust groups just achieve more together.
It's interesting. He even suggests virtue can be kind of selfish. In a good way, it attracts other high-integrity people to you.
Birds of a feather. And when self-doubt hits, he distinguishes between, I don't know what I'm doing yet, versus someone else must know better than me. That unconditional love foundation helps build the confidence to just figure things out.
He mentions the demon, that deep intuitive knowledge we have, right? Often more than we can even say out loud.
Yeah, that gut feeling. And the internal golden rule, Treat yourself like you wish others had treated you. That's powerful.
Really is. And on love and self-esteem, he contrasts being loved, which can feel a bit needy sometimes, versus the feeling of being in love, which is more expansive, makes you want to be better, suggesting maybe love is something you create by giving it.
Interesting twist. Okay, what's next? Pride, called the most expensive trait.
Yeah, and this isn't healthy pride. This is the pride that stops you learning, the pride that keeps you stuck.
How does that show up?
Holding on to losing stocks way too long, refusing to admit you messed up in a relationship, sticking with a career path that's clearly not working.
Okay. So it traps you in what he calls local maxima.
Exactly. You think you've peaked, but there's a much higher mountain nearby if you'd just be willing to step back, maybe even start climbing again from a lower point.
And the really great creators, the entrepreneurs, they seem to have this ability to just start over.
He uses Elon Musk as an example, right? Early days, taking massive risks, not weighed down by pride in past wins or fear of future flops, just building.
That willingness to potentially look foolish, to go back to zero, seems key for doing anything really new.
Which leads to a kind of freeing idea. Maybe not having a good time isn't noble. Maybe that silent suffering isn't something to glorify.
Yeah, challenging their whole brooding genius trope.
Right. He says you absolutely can be smart and happy. Points to history and tells that great little story about the guy in Thailand who just decided, okay, I'm going to be the happiest person in the world.
Just decided, as a reframe.
Yeah. So happiness, maybe it's less of a destination and more of a choice, a skill you can develop.
And it doesn't necessarily kill ambition either. Maybe it just aligns your ambition with a happier version of yourself, so you achieve things that actually feel good.
Exactly, because the standard path is often sacrifice happiness now for success later, hoping success brings happiness.
But maybe it's backward. Maybe being happier now leads to better, more aligned action, and thus more meaningful success. It's a paradigm shift.
Let's talk about holistic selfishness. It sounds bad, but it's really about unapologetic self-prioritization.
Right. Acknowledging that, yeah, maybe some people virtue signal, but deep down, everyone puts themselves first. And maybe that's okay.
He challenges the idea that always trying to appease others, putting their needs way ahead of your own, that it actually wastes everyone's time.
Interesting. Why?
Because it's often not genuine. And given we have such limited time, that 4,000 weeks idea comes up again. You kind of have to be ruthless about your priorities.
And seeing other people do that, be really clear about their boundaries and priorities. It can actually give you permission to do the same. Like the example of deleting his calendar after reading Mark Andreessen's post.
Yeah, that freedom to just act on inspiration right now.
So the idea is all these things, efficiency, success, happiness, freedom, they aren't fighting each other. They can actually reinforce each other.
Which leads to another slightly counterintuitive point. Sometimes, wanting something less, being less obsessed, can actually lead to more natural, better work.
Okay, wait. How does that square with, like, obsessive focus being a competitive advantage? Think Steve Jobs' attention to detail.
Good question. I think the sweet spot he describes is finding the thing that feels like play to you, but looks like hard work to everyone else.
Okay. So you're intrinsically motivated. You're not forcing it. You can outwork people effortlessly because you're enjoying it.
Exactly. And that ties into authenticity again. No one is going to beat you at being you. Your unique combination is your advantage.
So how do you leverage that?
2 words. Productize yourself. Figure out your unique thing, what you do naturally, and scale it. Turn it into something valuable for others.
In the modern world, with the internet and everything, it's like never been easier to explore and find that niche, right?
Yeah, unprecedented opportunities. But, big caution, avoid premature commitment.
Don't lock in too soon.
Right. Explore first. Then, once you find something promising, exploit it. But be ready to kill things quickly if they're not working. And your default answer to new requests should probably be no.
Which takes us straight to saying no and managing interruptions. That default no, keeping your calendar clear. It's about protecting your focus time.
Yeah, he talks about phases. Early on, maybe you say yes a lot to explore. Later, when you know your path, you say no almost constantly to protect it. That's the exploitation phase.
And dealing with all the incoming requests, that can be exhausting.
Totally. He suggests a filter. Would I ask this of someone else? If not, I'll probably say no. And critically, you gotta get comfortable just deleting emails, messages, without guilt.
Oof. That's hard for some people.
It is. But it's necessary to scale your time, maintain flow, and underlying all that is not letting little interruptions mess with your emotional state.
How do you do that?
By observing your own mind. Meditation, therapy, journaling, long walks, anything that creates a gap between stimulus and reaction so you can evaluate.
And when you do that, you realize a lot of the problems are just mental chatter, things you're creating yourself.
Exactly. So you become more choosy, maybe focus on one big problem you actually want to solve instead of reacting to everything.
This connects to the next idea. Cultivating indifference to things you can't control, which is hard.
So hard. We seem wired to want to fix things. We even invent problems sometimes or get obsessed with huge global issues we can't possibly solve alone.
The doom scrolling trap.
Yeah.
Getting sucked into news cycles about things happening thousands of miles away.
He calls them mimetic viruses from the news, infecting you with anxiety about stuff you can't influence.
And uses that sharp analogy. Your family is broken, but you're going to fix the world.
Yeah. Brutal, but gets the point across. Focus on your own life first. Because real intelligence, he argues, is getting what you actually want out of life, which means knowing what to want and knowing how to get it.
And avoiding those booby prizes, things that look good but create more problems.
Right. Like taking a job just for the status, then hating it. Or getting into a relationship based on expectations, not reality, often driven by mimicking what others seem to want.
He points out how little time we actually spend deciding the really big things, career, partner, where to live, even though they have huge long-term consequences.
It's true. We spend more time planning a vacation sometimes.
Okay, quick shift. Mastery, not just 10,000 hours of mindless repetition.
No, it's 10,000 iterations, trying, failing, learning, adjusting, constant error correction. That's the key.
Got it. Now, avoiding cynicism and pessimism. This is crucial.
Yeah, he argues pessimism might be evolutionary hardwiring, better safe than sorry back then, but modern life is way safer with much more upside potential.
So we need to consciously override that default pessimism.
Pretty much. Recognize that failure today usually isn't fatal. There are tons of second chances, opportunities everywhere. Be generally optimistic, believe something will work out.
But be skeptical about specific opportunities.
Yeah.
Because most won't pan out.
Exactly. It's that barbell approach again. Explore widely, cheaply, then go all in when you find the right fit. And don't get stuck on labels, I'm a pessimist, I'm an optimist. Just try to see reality clearly.
Because clinging to an identity, like I'm depressed or whatever, it locks you into the past. Flexibility is key. Adapting is intelligence.
Okay, this next bit is deep. The value of surprise and the ego. If you control everything, you lose the capacity for surprise. Life gets boring.
Right, but the flip side is too much chaos leads to anxiety. It's finding that balance.
And he suggests that constantly thinking about yourself, your personality, your ego, dwelling on past slights, that's a major source of unhappiness.
Now that's different from reflection aimed at learning, right?
Totally different. This is the obsessive self-focus, the ego chattering away. He calls it the beast. Insatiable.
So how do you quiet the beast?
By focusing on something bigger than yourself. A mission, spirituality, your kids. Something that pulls your attention outward.
Makes sense. And when it comes to actually finding happiness, he says there's no magic formula. It's unique for everyone.
Yeah, and even searching too hard for happiness techniques can backfire because it reinforces the feeling that you lack it.
Right. Real achievement seems to come more from just overwhelming desire and focus on the thing itself, not studying how others got successful.
He makes that great point. The people really crushing it at wealth creation, they're too busy doing it to sell courses about it.
True. Sign of real desire. Lying awake thinking about it. Those mental loops you can't shut off.
Yeah. And even with things like sleep, he advises, don't pathologize it. Don't label nights good or bad. Only try to optimize it if it becomes a genuine, deep, personal desire to fix it.
Because real change comes from that internal drive, that fundamental understanding, not forcing yourself into some external routine.
Exactly. Okay, anxiety and stress. Simple definitions offered here. Stress is basically having two conflicting desires at once.
Interesting. So just seeing the conflict can help.
Apparently. And anxiety, that's like pervasive background stress from a whole pile of unresolved conflicts you haven't even identified.
Just this cloud hanging over you.
Yeah, and the key message is, don't let your mind eat you alive. Remember, you are more than just your thoughts.
How do you do that?
By recognizing that everything, thoughts, feelings, sensations, happens within consciousness. Consciousness itself is pretty stable. It's the contents that change.
And it's our interpretation of those contents that makes us happy or sad.
Bingo. So minimize the interpretations. Just let things be as much as possible. Observe the thoughts without getting swept away.
Easier said than done, but I get the concept.
Totally. So improving your life starts with just objectively watching your own mind, seeing the loops.
And letting go. It's not a one-off thing.
No, it's constant practice. And exploring what you genuinely want, not what you think you should want. And trusting your gut, that refined judgment when making decisions. The head often just rationalizes after the fact.
But developing that gut takes time, right? Experience.
Absolutely. And watch out for wishful thinking, letting strong desire just steamroll your better judgment.
Okay, another big one, changing yourself versus changing others. The insight is, we think we can't change ourselves, but we can. We think we can change others, but mostly we can't.
That's true,
Yeah.
mostly. You can change your reaction to them, though.
Right. But they change on their own schedule, through their own stuff. Telling them to change usually just pushes them away.
Yeah. He mentions Dale Carnegie positive reinforcement and that Michelle Pomus language method non-judgmental observation. Basically, praise the behavior you want to see more of. That's how you influence change.
Smart. Okay, love and relationships. Raises that Reddit question. Do you love your partner or the idea of them, their potential?
Tough question. Love, he suggests, is about creating unity, wholeness. And values are way more important than checking boxes.
Common values matter more than common interests, maybe.
Seems like it. And that fear of change, loss of version, it keeps us stuck. Bad relationships, bad jobs, wrong cities.
Again, that willingness of successful people to just start over.
Yeah. And fundamentally, taking yourself too seriously just makes you miserable and limits your freedom. Remember the kid inside you.
Good advice. So, those final harsh truths. He lists a bunch quickly. Money won't make you happy, fame won't fix you, nothing's as crucial as it seems in the moment.
Stuff that feels kind of obvious when you hear it listed out.
So why do we ignore it? Why do we rediscover these things like they're brand new revelations?
Good question. There's pushback against people who say this stuff after they're successful, and we all kind of think, yeah, but I'll be different.
The exception to the rule.
Exactly. He thinks these lessons aren't really teachable abstractly. You have to live them, learn them in context.
But once you do get it, personally, then you can rephrase the maxim in a way that sticks for you.
Right. It reminds me of that quote, timeless truths need restating because no one was listening the first time.
Yeah. Which brings us to seeming wise versus being wise.
Big difference. Just memorizing stuff, using fancy words that can fool people. Fluency is an insight.
True wisdom comes from curiosity, from tapping into your own deeper knowledge, not just performing. He mentions having to turn off his podcast persona in therapy to be real.
Yeah, I get that. And you might recognize some of these ideas as gateway drugs, the insights that open up whole new ways of thinking.
And even if you're anti-guru, sometimes hearing someone else articulate something you felt, it just clicks, solidifies your own view.
He mentions being in San Francisco, surrounded by diverse, smart, weird thinkers, that exposure helps. But don't confuse the polished output with the messy work behind it.
Right. He even thought about revisiting old tweets and realized it would just be performance, a straitjacket of his past self.
The real key seems to be self-observation. Letting change happen, not forcing it. Don't let your mind wrestle itself.
Okay, spending wealth. If you have it, what's a good way to use it? Reinvesting in your own stuff, doing bigger things.
Yeah.
Like Musk.
Yeah. Less effective. Status symbols, crazy consumption, better. Invest, maybe buy a house finally, get help to free up time, treat people well.
Use it to take risks, build things aligned with your talents, create value.
Exactly. The goal isn't retirement in the traditional sense. It's continuing to do work you enjoy. Wealth gives you the freedom to do that without asking permission.
Which circles back to how to get rich. That original thread was just the tip of the iceberg.
Totally. Abstract advice is tough. Specific advice, like for a specific business, is easier. Podcasting lets you go deeper than Twitter.
And that heuristic, if you have to memorize it, you don't understand it.
Love that. Understanding, judgment, taste. That's what matters now, not just memory.
Philosophy, he says, is just finding general truths from specific experiences. Master any field, and you start getting philosophical, seeing the unity in the variety.
Science keeps pushing the boundaries of philosophy, too.
Okay, changing beliefs.
Yeah.
He shares a big recent one for him. Moving away from pure laissez-faire.
Oh, interesting. Towards what?
Towards recognizing the value of culture, even religion, as systems for cooperation, for high trust. He says pure libertarians often get outcompeted because they don't coordinate well.
Contrasting messy Western societies with more functional ones, like Japan, maybe?
Yeah, and becoming looser in raising his kids. letting them be kids more.
Connected to preserving your agency, right? Not over-domesticating them. He wants kids who are quick to learn and hard to kill.
Wow. Intense. Okay, the culture war. He'd previously said the left was winning.
Now he thinks it's more balanced, with figures like Musk pushing back.
Yeah. Frames it as this ongoing historical battle, but believes truth and merit tend to win out eventually over just raw power. So it's not over.
And related. Stay out of the news. Our brains aren't built for constant global emergencies.
Focus local, focus actionable. Otherwise you go nuts. Wanting external outcomes you can't control is just a contract for unhappiness.
He talks about getting past his own tough childhood, processing it to get rid of it, not build an identity around it.
Cutting the Gordian knot. Life's too short to stay tangled in the past. Prioritize action.
And the real currency of life. Not money, not even time. It's attention.
Where you choose to focus. Because time without attention is just wasted.
Exactly. Spend your attention consciously. And maybe starting as a loser gives you an advantage, creates drive.
He says absolutely, but don't inflict it on your kids. Cultivate gratitude instead.
Last couple of points. Alpha males. Society rewards those traits, even if they stem from insecurity. And maybe we shouldn't discourage the rich from doing good things by attacking them relentlessly. Reinforce good behavior.
Makes sense. And his final thought for us.
Expect nothing.
Perfect. Direct. A lot to chew on there.
Expect nothing. Wow. Well, we definitely dug up a lot of insights exploring Naval's harsh truths. Thank you seriously for walking through this with me.
My pleasure. It was fascinating stuff.
And thank you, listener, for coming along on this deep dive. We hit so much today: happiness, success, suffering, desire, status game, self-esteem, pride, focus. Whew.
Yeah, a real whirlwind.
We really hope we delivered those aha moments you wanted without totally frying your brain.
Hopefully. Take some time now, maybe reflect on these ideas, see how they resonate or don't with your own experience.
See what lands for you. And here's that final thought to leave you with. If your attention truly is the most valuable currency you have, what will you choose to focus on moving forward?